Welcome back to the Knights of Knee. I'm Jordan, and I just finished my Morkanaught, and I used a couple different techniques on it. I just thought we'd sit down and take a look at it and see what you guys think. I did something super different. I mean, I've done pinks before, but what I used on this one was this SuperDork paint, and I've got mixed feelings about it, so we'll talk about that first. SuperDork is like a reflective paint. It's got different attributes to it. I think the biggest issue applying this kind of paint is, one, you really need an airbrush. I did brush strokes and I did sponging, and the sponging worked out, but I think, regardless of your base coat, but we'll get to that in a minute, I think when you use these SuperDork reflective paints and translucent color change paints, you really need an airbrush, and that's something I still don't have even after all this time. I tried to get one a while ago, but the production time was like 4 months, so I said never mind at the time. I'll probably get one down the road here soon, though, at least at this point. But that is the biggest issue for me, is the airbrush. You really should be applying this with an airbrush. You don't have to, obviously. You can do whatever you want, but you're going to really lose out without that utility in your drawer. I think that it's just so important, especially for this type of paint, that you have a nice, even spray-on finish instead of a brush or a sponge. I went with a sponge after trying with the brush. It was just beyond frustrating with brush strokes. It was not worth it. It didn't look good. It was just terrible. So I did a sponging, but I did notice that, at least without this airbrush ability, that your base coat has to be something that this paint is not going to need 6 to 7 layers on. And I tried it 3 or 4 times in one spot, just over the black base, and it didn't work. So I had to come back in, and I ended up using a pink, I think it was Emperor's Child Citadel pink, based with that, then added a little SuperDork to that, did it again, then 50-50, did it again, then probably 75 and 25, and then did it again, and then one SuperDork, and then in those 4 or 5 coats, that did it. It looks good. But it's a lot of work, you know. It's a lot of work for something like that. So I think the airbrush is the main utility you have to have. Probably turns out better, probably looks better with it. But I think this looks great. This might be one of the better models I've ever painted, especially recently. I was looking back at other models I'd done, especially my Gorkanaughts compared to this one, and this one's infinitely better than the Gorkanaughts I'd done in the past. Maybe I was rushed in the past, I don't know. But it has been several years since the Gorkanaught models came out, and I think I got 2 right off the bat. That being said, I know there's tons of work players who are at a 50-50, which one's better, which one's worse, and I think it 100% depends on the faction you play and what tools you have in your drawer. I prefer the Morkanaught because it's one of the only anti-vehicle models that I'll have on the table. Especially with all the new updates and points changes, you got to be really point efficient. And I don't think the Gorkanaught's quite there. The Morkanaught is, I mean, they're both so lackluster for 400 points just about. They're not really, they don't have that Land Raider feel, and that's what it is. When you have those 4 last cannons and 2 heavy bolters on a Land Raider, plus you can transport 10 models or 12 or less if you take the Redeemer. And I think the Morkanaught and Gorkanaught is just trapped in this niche where you can only hold 6 people, and if it gets destroyed, you can't assault the following turn. It's just such a trapped spot, and I think the Gorkanaught is weaker in that respect. Especially, it gets better when you use the new custom upgrades. But I just think it's both the Morkanaught and the Gorkanaught are trapped in this niche where they're super, super expensive for what you get, but depending how you use them, they can be good. They can be really good. The Gorkanaught is a little bit worse because it does not have access to that custom force field that the Morkanaught does, and the Morkanaught is also an R from itself, so that's even better than, I mean, the base is huge, and you still get, I think it's a 9-inch for him. If not, it's still 6-inch, and his base is huge. It's fine. I think you need that a lot with Orc armies now, especially if you don't get that first turn. You are going to just get pummeled into the dirt as an Orc player if you're going second. You just need that first turn to get across the table a little bit, just to get something up on that turn 1, because turn 1 is so strong. If you haven't heard me talk about turn 1 yet, if you go second, you're 1 at disadvantage against every shooty army in the game, period. I mean, that's how it's always been. But now we've lost that 2-point stratagem to plus 1 of your saves. So that's gone, and that's a real bad decision, I think, from the gameplay perspective. 2, on that last turn, 5th turn, player 1 is going to start, score his objectives, and then now he's free for the entire turn to do whatever he wants. He should bugger off those objectives and really lay into you with all of his units and get you off your objectives before your turn starts. So player 2 is automatically at a half-turn disadvantage again. And I don't know how they should fix this. Changing objective scoring to the end of the turn would be a really good way to fix it, and I think bringing back that cover save stratagem for 2 CP would be beneficial. But turn 1, I don't know if they've really thought about it when they were designing it or if people really noticed. I'm sure someone has. But you need that turn 1 superiority, or you need a way to weather the storm. And the Morkanaught does it so much better than the Gorkanaught. But that's my thoughts. I didn't want to make a super long video. Maybe we'll have a Sin Talk later. Who knows? We're still working on it. Still working on getting everybody together. Hey, thanks for listening, you guys. And you guys have a great day.